Welcome to Think Global Education Services. Until now, I am hoping that you have already seen all the reading comprehension based videos. I'm hoping that you have seen all the question types and maybe one or two other passages that we have solved in different videos. This passage, the one that we are going to do today, along with the questions in a separate video, this is primarily uh, testing you on how is your understanding for a subject that you probably haven't seen or even thought about earlier. Well, if you have, well, a few of you might have, then great. But remember that even if you know content about the particular passage that you are reading, you don't have to use your knowledge. And SAT likes to give you stuff that you haven't thought about or read earlier, probably the stuff that you won't want to uh, find out from here and there. Another important thing about these passages is that if you think you're gaining information, during the test is not the time to gain information. You're reading in order to answer the question and score your points. Okay, so remember that. Let's move on to the passage now. Remember, when you read, you don't read because you want to learn from the passage, and that is how we save time. So let's start with our speed read approach that we have discussed in the previous few videos. All right. Here, I would want you to pause your screen and give yourself around 10 seconds to read from line number 1 till line number 30. So you're reading from here till here. It's a lot to read, I understand. 10 to 15 seconds. You don't have to read every line, every word. Your eyes can see and they can tell you that this was there. With a lot of practice, of course, it happens. Not it's just nothing that comes up just like that. But I believe that because you must have seen other videos by now, you would be able to do it. Okay, so try 15 seconds, or if you're very good at it, then 10 seconds to see what type of content is here. After that, take 5 seconds to maybe write one word each or two words each for all the paragraphs that you feel this has happened till now. Okay. Remember that we have to know the subject that is discussed, the tone of the author, if the author is himself involved in the passage or if it is some third person's view, if there's any change in direction that's happening, transitions, that's what we have to look forward to. Okay, here you go. So pause your video for 10 to 15 seconds and then come back, line 1 to 30. I'm hoping that you have now understood what has happened in these lines. Let's do it together before I give you the remaining part of the passage to see. The first paragraph, understanding how hibernators, between two commas, so we don't have to read it. Hibernators survive their long winter, offer solution, and there are certain diseases that are discussed. So first paragraph talks about a link between hibernators, who are of course not humans, and the solution to human problems like these. Next paragraph, everything animal's body changes hibernate. Okay, so we know that we are still talking about hibernation and we are giving detail about hibernation in the second paragraph. Third paragraph, fat. Fat is where it's all for hibernator. These people said this, you bring your own lunch. Somebody said that, packing lunch is necessary. Somebody said this also. They have their last supper in October. So they means what? Probably the hibernators, because we are talking about them who go to something. So this paragraph tells you about what's the process, how when the animal hibernates, the animal is still able to survive without eating. So where does the lunch come from? And the answer is fat. 3 paragraphs. Fourth paragraph, bigger fat stored means greater chance of surviving. Okay, so fat animals can survive better. Somebody said all of these. So some more details. Leave this paragraph. There's also watch their waistline expand in the months before. Okay, so again, more information about fat, something that we already discussed. Brown bear. Okay, something about brown bear. Um, Gluttony among human could have severe consequences. If we do something like brown bear, we may not be able to do a lot good. Obesity associated diabetes. So this paragraph compares bear and human. Okay, so until now we know that we are talking about hibernators, we are talking about how it happens, the process, how is fat related, how do they save lunch, and they um, uh, what's the chance of survival, and if the humans do that, what brown bears do, then what all problems can happen. Okay, now let's move further. Now I want you to give yourself only about 5 seconds to read from line number 31 to 41. 5 to, let's say, 7-8 seconds. Okay, so just see through this and find out what has happened. Make your notes. Okay, pause here. I'm sure you must have seen now. Next two paragraphs. So let's see what if you are able to understand in the 5 seconds you gave yourself of what you should be. To see how fattening, so we were talking about fat above, over here we're discovering what happens fattening in brown bear, so we're talking about brown bear, and certain details we don't have to know right now. We'll come back to the paragraphs, if the question asks you to. If no, then our mind has set a map that here we have to look forward to if the question asks. Next, bears can be dangerous close up. Even hibernating bears can rouse action quickly. Then scientists studying the bear. Okay, so until now we were talking about brown bear. Now suddenly we have generalized the bear and we're talking about some dangers and some other details. That's all is required in this paragraph. Let's move to the next part. Once again, a long read. Now I want you to read this entire stuff from here, once a bear, till the end, humans as well. All of this, give yourself, let's say, 20 seconds. I'm saying 20 seconds here, unlike this part, because towards the end, the author tends to uh, give the conclusion that this is what my views are, or somebody else's views are. So you have to see if the author is there or not. Okay. So from here till here in 20 seconds. Please pause the video now. I hope you have read this entire paragraph now. Let's go ahead and do this together. So until now we knew that bear, overall bear can hibernate in these and that ways, and fat helps. Next paragraph. Once a bear undertake tranquilizers influence, then the scientists do all of this. So that means now the experiment has started. Bear has returned to its den by 61. So it's like this is the experiment. If question asks, we'll come back over here. Okay, so tranquilizer means that we are we are mimicking, or maybe we are trying to do what they do in their place, and we are doing it while we can observe. Precious materials collected during this high pressure encounter needs to analyze within 24 hours. So giving details of the experiment, that when you experiment, this is what you should do. Researchers test and all of these happen. Parrots sometimes fly sample from field site. So this is how again they do. Samples such as bones and arteries can be collected from live bear. Okay, so they are bear, they are hibernating, and we humans are doing all of these things. From bears killed by hunters during this season, so sometimes bear are even killed, is information we got. Analysis revealed that Scandinavian brown bear spent summer with plasma control level. Okay, some study we found a result. We don't have to know a lot about the result. Very fat bears with high cholesterol. So fat bears have high cholesterol. Then we have more details. Um, the cocktail would not be advisable in humans. So whatever is happening over here in bear, that's something that humans should definitely be away from, putting the risk of heart attacks and stroke. So you see how it started, the tone that whatever these bears do or the hibernators do can give a solution, is how we started. And then we're saying whatever they do, if humans do, that is so risky for us. Even healthy young adult can develop. So now we talk about adult in the last paragraph of the passage. Can develop fatty streaks in their arteries, and then some other then some other details about it. Bears, they had nothing. It's not yet clear how bears keep up their arteries flexible. So if humans do all of it, humans will have very bad time. But we don't know how bears are not able to do it. No, bears don't get arteries blocked. They are flexible. So the passage ends by saying that the person who was conducting the experiment said or hopes to find some protective molecule that could stave off hardened arteries and human as well. Until now, what do we know? That this solution that we started, that how can this help, is in the understanding of this experiment. So if these kind of experiments are, if we are able to understand it, then we can actually do some good to humans. Okay, a lot of other details which we can ignore. Then comes a graph. For now, we can just read what's in the graph, but we don't have to understand the graph. We'll come back to the graph if the question wants us to. Okay, so what do you have to look in the graph? Again, if the question wants, we'll read the question first and then come back. Okay, now we come to the questions. If you haven't understood the passage yet, I want you to go back to the passage and understand it so that we can do the questions. Okay, if you have identified where is the problem, then you can maybe make notes about it so that later you can practice a lot of speed read and see if you're still able to understand it the same. Okay, let's try a few questions now. Again, I want you to pause, do maybe 2 questions together, or in this case maybe 3 questions together. Give yourself around let's say a minute or 2 minutes to do these questions. Come back and then see if the answers are correct while we discuss. All right, let's go further. Question number 20. The passage is written from the perspective of someone who is. Now, we haven't done this type of question earlier. Now, SAT will probably give you 1 or 2 questions in the test that are of this type, where it says that passage is written from the perspective of. Now, while we were reading, we knew that the person said this happens, this happened, the author said that. Now, if you go back to the passage and read the first line, which is written in the small letter, is adapted from here, lessons from the tropic. And if we read this, we don't know if the author is yet involved, but sometimes you do get a clue. So it's useful to read this part when you see that type of question. Here we did not get that. Now you see, the author did not go a lot here and there saying that this person said or that person said. The scientists is the word used, and the names of scientists are given. That means the author he doesn't have his own views. He is stating the views of these scientists. All the writing work. He's stating that this is what they said. Yes. So it's written from the perspective of whom? Who are these scientists? Scientists who are looking at the hibernation process, scientists who are studying the process, right? Now, let's see. It's written from the perspective of someone who's actively involved in conducting hibernator research. Okay, maybe somebody, okay, keep it. A participant in the recent debate in the field of cardiology. Now, how do I know cardiology? We are discussing hard things, but we don't know if the participant is in a debate of cardiology, because there were not 2 different points given here. We had only information. This happens, this happens. There wasn't a debate saying that this doesn't happen or this happens. So debate goes away. Knowledgeable about advances in hibernator research. So it's written from the perspective of somebody who knows, who has knowledge about all the hibernators research. Like all is a strong word here though. About advances in research. So he mentioned about all the research and all the problems that are concerned with human and how they are related with the bear. So could be okay. Stick to C and A. An advocate for wildlife preservation. Anything about wildlife, it's only talking about hibernators and most specifically bear and brown bear. Yeah. So wildlife is too broad to cover perspective of someone who's taking care of wildlife. Why would you only talk about bear? This also goes away. Now let's compare how A and C are different from each other. It's a perspective of someone who's actively involved. That means he's himself involved in conducting research himself. So when I say somebody himself involved, that means the person should be saying in the passage that I did this, I saw that, I found out this. But in our passage, the author was not saying all of it. He was only mentioning the views of other people. Yes. How do I know about the other people? Because I'll have knowledge about all of it. I have read, I have seen, I have observed. Okay. So it's not A, which is quite close, but it's not A, but C. That's your correct answer. Got it? Okay. Let's move to the next question. It is reasonable to conclude that the main goal of the scientists conducting the research described in the passage is to do what? So, what's the goal of it's reasonable to conclude means we don't have to refer to the passage and say that where is it written. We have to conclude it. Okay, so we have all the proofs. It's like inference question, but the word inference or indicate, these are not given. So they have just twisted the question a little to conclude that the main goal of the scientist conducting research described in the passage. The word main goal is written, but it's not a main idea question, because main idea question, as discussed in previous videos, is basically testing what's the entire passage talking about and what's the author's view. But this doesn't talk about author's view. It talks about scientists. So scientists who conducted all of this, which we know what did they feel, because the author gave us exactly what scientists said, their quotations. So when scientists conducted the research, what was the goal? Why do you think the scientists were doing all of it? Okay, so let's look at the options. Learn how the hibernation pattern of bear and squirrel differ. Now, did so was the whole goal about saying, okay, so bear and squirrel are so similar, and now let's see how are they different. Squirrels were here and there a little bit maybe mentioned, but that's not about why we wanted to write it, why the scientists wanted to go through all this pain. No, they were rather comparing humans with the bear. They're like, bear do all of this and humans cannot. So A goes out. Determine the role that fat plays in hibernation. Okay, so we are talking a lot about fat. Yes, that fat does this, fat helps us to not die. So fat does play a role. But is this the reason why we conducted the result? Or is this the reason, or not a reason, but a finding that we got after conducting the result? Yes, it's a finding. So we did not conduct it because we wanted to see what fat plays role. It was that we conducted it and then we got to know that fat plays a role. Okay, so B also goes out, quite close again. C. Illustrate the important health benefits of exercise for human. Okay, now where are we really talking about exercise for human? Even if it is logically correct that no humans should exercise and that will give God so many health benefits, that's not what this particular passage talks about. D. Explore possible ways to prevent human diseases. And yes, we started the passage like this, that you know what, if the entire uh, hibernators could be looked at, then a lot of problems could be solved. Here. Understanding how hibernators survive their long winter naps may one day offer solution for problems such as these. So that's what we were doing here. And D is the answer. Now, if you see once again, as I told you earlier, you may be able to do both these questions together, because this is the evidence question. Now, in order to see if D is definitely the correct answer, let's refer to these lines. Okay, let's see. So, line 1 to 5, which we just read over here, this is how we know that D is the answer. Explore ways to prevent human disease. Why? Because one day will offer solution is the guide, is the quick idea. Let's read others. Are we talking about the main goal anywhere else also? Let's see. So if you go back to 10 to 30, fat is everywhere. Fat does all of this. University of Minnesota said all of these. And then about squirrel, of course, we had some mention. Is it doing anything that this is why we conducted the research? Because we wanted to see it? No, we do not. Now, if you see, option B sort of goes with option A of 21, pattern of bear and squirrel. But, I mean, it's sort of, but you see here, it only talks about squirrel. It doesn't talk about bear. So even if you would be inclined to choose B and say that, oh yeah, squirrel and squirrel over here also, you should also note that it's not talking about bear. So that way is also B and A will go out. Next one, 31 to 35. Let's go here. To see how fattening up all of these bear. Now this talks about bear. Fat in the bear. Signal given off by radio transmitter or GPS device on tagged bear. So when we try to monitor, we get to certain things out of the fat. Now this fat line goes with B. This C goes with B over here. Roll that fat place. But as I already said, it's if I want to prove C and I want to prove B over here, ask yourself, is that why I conducted the result, or this is what I found out after the result was going on? Now, that's how I was able to tap them. Okay, all the devices that I kept on the bear was because I was already conducting the result, the research, not result. Next line, 42 to 46. So until now, we know why these two are out, and why we also know why A is correct. But we should always refer to all the other options also. What if something better comes up? Yeah, 42 to 46. Once a bear is under tranquilizer's influence, scientists have 60 minutes to get the animal from its den, weigh and measure. So in 60 minutes, we do all of these things after the tranquilizer. No, an hour. Is that why we wrote the passage again? Because we wanted to see that what's the bone density and everything? No, not really. We did it because we wanted to find out that the human diseases can maybe get some solution if we see these patterns. Okay, all right. So these three questions in this video for now, and please refer to another video for the next few questions. Okay, thank you for watching video from Think Global.